Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I am your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince. Hopefully, you're having a great Wednesday, middle of the week. You can head over to theevildm.com for all my information, as well as contacting me to ask a question, or go to facebook.com/evilDungeonMaster, or hit me up on X, EvilDM. Today, we're going to talk about another spell, but this time we're going to be looking at Unearthed Arcana, page 51, and we're going to be talking about the armor spell, which is something a lot of people usually get wrong, I've noticed, when it comes to AD&D 1E. We're also going to talk about how it's changed over the years as far as 3E and 5E, because those are usually the benchmarks, going AD&D, 3E, 5E. And I guess the new edition whenever they decide to release that. But reading the original spell, which is Armor, it's a level 1 spell. It's touch. Duration is special. Affects one creature. It has the verbal, somatic, and material component. Casting time is 1 round. And there's no saving throw because you're basically putting it on a willing creature anyway. By means of the spell, the caster creates a magical force field which serves as with leather armor AC 8. If the spell is cast upon a person already armored, it has no effect, so they have to take off their armor for this because it doesn't stack. However, if it is cast upon a creature with an armor class normally better than 9, due to whatever reasons, it will benefit from normal armor class by 1 step. So it's talking about natural armor class in this instance. So if an AC 8 becomes 7, a 7 becomes 6, and so on. It'll just reduce it by 1 step. The Mage Armor spell does not slow or hinder movement, adds no weight or encumbrance, nor does it prevent any spell casting whatsoever. It lasts until dispelled, or until the wearer sustains a cumulative damage total greater than 8 hit points plus 1 per level of the caster. Thus, the wearer might take 8 points from an attack, then several turns later sustain an additional point of damage. Unless the spell were cast by a magic user of level 2 or higher, it would be dispelled upon at this time. Until it is dispelled, the armor spell allows the wearer full benefits of the armor class gained due to the new armor. Note, this spell will not function in conjunction with protective magic devices other than the Ring of Protection. Material component is a piece of finely cured leather which has been blessed by a cleric. Okay, that's interesting there. I didn't realize that part, but I've seen a lot of people use this spell, Armor, and think that they get an additional 8 hit points, or I guess, temporary hit points on top of their normal hit points, which is not how this spell works. It works in conjunction with the current hit points you have. It just tells you that your protection barrier has 8 hit points plus whatever your level 2, 3, whatever. So an extra 3, 11. That's with your hit points included in that total. So if your character is a magic user, for example, and only has 4 hit points, he will go down as dead according to the rules of when he hits 0. And 4 hit points plus whatever level the magic user is still exists as a barrier around him after he's long dead. These are not phantom hit points. These are just hit points to determine how long the shield, or I should say the armor stays on him. That's all, because it dispels after you tick it off or the conditions are met. It doesn't mean you get another phantom bunch of hit points. I've seen many of DMs and many of people argue that this gives you phantom hit points, which gives you... So if you're a magic user with 4 hit points, you now have, 13 hit points? Yeah, at first level if you're casting the spell, because it lasts until it goes away. Sure, it's great as a magic user, but you still only have 4 hit points. So after you're dead and on the ground, you still have 4 hit points plus... You still have 5 hit points left on your armor barrier that exists around your skin to protect you. And yeah, so it doesn't really matter. And those don't heal or anything like that. It only works with a Ring of Protection, so you could at best get, an AC of 7? So, Looking at 3rd edition, when we move up in editions, it's changed quite a little bit. A bard, a sorcerer, and a wizard level 1. Verbal, semantic, and I forgot what the F stood for. I have to look that up again. 1 action touch. It's 1 hour per level is how long it lasts. A will save negates it. An invisible, tangible light. An invisible but tangible field of force surrounds the subject of Mage Armor, because now it's called Mage Armor, providing a +4 bonus to AC. Unlike Mundane Armor, Mage Armor entails no armor channel pack, so it doesn't matter if you're wearing it. Since Mage Armor is made of force, and corporeal creatures can't bypass it the way they do with normal armor. So this lasts 1 hour per level of the character, and it just adds 4 to your AC, regardless if you're wearing armor or not. It doesn't say that you can't be wearing armor. It just adds a buffer bonus to your armor class. Okay? Now, in 5th current edition, it reads as 1st level spell, 1 action cast touch. It brings back the material component again. You touch a willing creature who isn't wearing armor, and a protective magical force surrounds it until the spell ends, which the duration is 8 hours now. The target's base AC becomes 13 plus its dexterity modifier. The spell ends if the target dons armor, or you dismiss the spell as an action, or the duration runs out. So what that basically means is now, instead of your armor class becoming a 10 by default, because all characters start with a 10 AC, your default armor class now is a 13 plus your dexterity modifier. Interesting way they do that. Again, they don't say that you can't use other magical items. The material component now is just a piece of cured leather. It no longer has to be blessed by a cleric. So an AC of 13, which is 7 for old school, plus dexterity modifier, so you can get, an AC of 6 or 14, depending on the edition. I think 5e version of it is a little bit more open-ended for discussion, because you can't really stack other abilities with this. If you're a 5th edition player, there's sometimes feats or abilities that, like unarmored defense, that you can add to your AC. It's not allowed with this spell. But magical items are not a problem. So if you have Ring of Protection, a bracer of protection, a necklace of protection, whatever you have will stack with this. But 3rd edition, I don't think it. Let me go back to that. I don't think they have said anything about it. No, there's nothing about it there as well. So only 1st edition will mention that you can't use anything but a Ring of Protection. Now, one can argue you can wear 2 Rings of Protections, because you can wear 1 in each hand. They don't cancel each other out. The same ring on the same hand, one can argue, does cancel it out. It really depends on how you look at it. But armor coming from Unearthed Arcana became Mage Armor, which kind of changed over the years. And I like the original way of how it handles it, because you cast it once, you have this armor buffer around you as a magic user, you have your Ring of Protection, you get an AC of 7. It's good for the first couple of levels as a magic user, 1st or 2nd. You get an extra, you don't get any extra, you just get that barrier around you to protect you just a little bit more. And then you still have that armor class of hit points, so it doesn't go away until that armor hit points deteriorate. Think of it as how Palladium does their SDC on their armor. Your armor gets hit, it takes damage until it finally falls apart when it hits 0. This is the same concept here, except you get only 8 or 9, depending on your level, hit points before it falls apart. Just something I wanted to point out, because I was talking to someone the other day about AD&D spells, and they were talking about Mage Armor, and I'm like, well, no, you mean armor? And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. And we looked at it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is the spell that everybody screws up on and thinks that they get an additional 8 hit points plus the level, which is not true. Tell me what you think about the spell itself, and comment below how it's changed over the generations. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit follow on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Follow the show. Rate the show on whatever platform you're listening to, because why not? With that said, we're going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school, and as our new motto is, no clickbait, no drama, just gaming. Good night, everybody.